Hello and welcome to Kaleidoscope with me, Savithri Rodrigo. This week has been a busy one for us. We've been looking at how the apparel industry is shaping up with the chairman of the Sri Lanka Apparel Exporters Association, Rehan Lakani, and his gold getting too glittery. Managing Director of Lalita Jewellers, Sellakumar Kandasamy, talks us through the high gold prices. Sri Lanka presents a pretty decent report card on the handling of its COVID-19 situation, according to WHO representative of Sri Lanka, Razia Penze. And the concept of safe sport is being driven by Sri Lanka Women's Committee head of the National Olympic Committee, Nilu Jayatilaka. And that is on our People's Bank News capsule. Sean Christie David and Peter Jones Best, the co-founders of Colombo Social in Sydney, dish out some great empowerment through exceptional employment on Selinco Lifelet store. And Life in 60 is with Lanka Organic Gardening Circle's Romaine Anthony, and she shows you how to grow your own microgreens. Right? So on with the show.
Technology is key in moving forward to transform every challenging moment into a profit, where manual becomes digital, business becomes smart, and lives become smarter. People's Bank Online Corporate Banking. It's truly the change you need.
And now for our People's Bank News capsule this week. We begin with the latest from Sri Lanka's apparel industry. Apparel exports are still weak, but are just showing signs of improvement compared to the beginning of the pandemic, when the industry had to evolve by manufacturing personal protective equipment or PPE. Apparel exports declined 20% in June to $402 million, but performed better than the previous month of May. And the US, one of Sri Lanka's largest buyers, is helping apparel producers to export PPE to the USA in a joint program with JAF and the EDB. But is this enough? I asked President of the Sri Lanka Apparel Exporters Association, Rehan Lakani, about the status of the industry and its strategy for survival.
The toughest period is yet to come. We see that business would be going on a downward trend for at least next couple of months. The key for the industry at the moment is to survive through this period. Unfortunately, this particular incident is different. This is a global crisis. This time, it has not only hit us in Sri Lanka, it has hit our markets. We believe the industry will survive through this. We know that there is a shift for business from China to other countries, and Sri Lanka will definitely be able to take advantage of that. We are also very optimistic about the Aravur Fabric Park. Once the fabric park is set up, we will be able to compete with countries for speed to market, which is going to be the biggest advantage for Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka's economy could contract up to 4% and the budget deficit expand to as much as 11% due to the impact on revenues post-COVID-19. Although the services sector recovery is weak and tourism has been dependent only on local demand, Sri Lanka's manufacturing activity has seen a strong rebound. Gold prices hit new highs, with spot gold surging to $1,975 per ounce, and gold futures also rose 2.3% to $2,000 per ounce. Even silver saw a surge of 5%. Dropping into our studios was Managing Director of Lalita Jewellers, Sellakumar Kandasamy, who explained the reason for the unprecedented surge.
Currently, it's going up mainly because of the pandemic. There's a lot of uncertainty in the market, and central banks around the world are putting a lot of money into the hands of people by way of stimulus. So it's reducing, people's expectation of the value of money is going down, and value of money is also going down because what you can buy from it is also less and less every day. So investors traditionally put money in assets which they think would hold value. So gold has a lot of perceptive value. That's why gold is going up.
Sella, how long do you think this trend is going to last?
Very difficult to say. I wish I knew the answer. But in the short term, it's definitely going to go up much, much higher. Internationally, currently the price is about $1,950 an ounce. There are predictions that it can go up to even $3,000. But at least I think a 2.5 is probably achievable. And the US elections in November will also be a pointer. It will kind of tell us where it's going, depending on the government policy, Fed policy and all that stuff. Yeah.
Susila mentions that for Sri Lankans, gold is a necessary luxury and therefore these rising prices compromise affordability. For manufacturers too, with costs increasing each week, maintaining stable prices is difficult. Meanwhile, the Colombo stock market and the daily turnover was also up from last week at 918 million rupees. While global cases of COVID-19 have risen to 17 million and deaths are close to 670,000, Sri Lanka's case rate remains comparatively low at under 3,000, with minimal deaths being recorded. By this week, Sri Lanka had completed more than 150,000 PCR tests, and I asked WHO representative for Sri Lanka, Razia Penze, what her thoughts were on Sri Lanka's handling of the pandemic.
By preparing early, building on the foundation of sound public health measures, adopting global best practices, and engaging whole of government and communities, Sri Lanka has been able to manage the COVID-19 epidemic well thus far. We have been able to restart most activities in the country. However, we are not out of the woods. COVID-19 is not yet over. We are still amid a once-in-a-generation pandemic. For the country and its citizens to move forward, to avoid worse consequences and preserve lives and livelihoods, we need a new normal for our daily lives. We need to do things more safely and be more vigilant. At an individual level, we need to practice hand hygiene, respiratory etiquette, physical distancing, disinfecting surfaces, and wearing a mask. We should avoid making and being in a crowd. We need to be kind and compassionate, helping each other and seeking and spreading the right message. The new normal may require some sacrifices of personal choice and freedom, but it is important for both the individual and the collective good. Together, we can ensure that the new normal will make us stronger, safer, and more resilient.
Wild Guides, a film produced by So Sri Lanka, won the award for Best Viral Film at the Brand Film Awards in London. The film gained a viewing of over 2.5 billion across key international markets, and it's the first time a Sri Lankan brand has won this award. Sports people around the world are speaking out about the sexual harassment and abuse they have faced and suffered in their careers, with the most recent being the South Korean athlete who committed suicide after being sexually abused by her coach. With a worldwide increase of sexual harassment cases of athletes, Sri Lanka's National Olympic Committee too has followed the IOC and other countries to implement a sexual harassment and abuse policy. Here to talk about the redress sports people have with this policy is the head of Sri Lanka's Women's Committee of the National Olympic Committee, Nilu Jayatilaka. Do you think Sri Lanka has had any incidences of sexual harassment among sports people?
Given the culture of Sri Lanka and globally also, this is a very sensitive subject in sports, and more it's being highlighted internationally that abuse is happening, sexual harassment of athletes is happening, and I'm sure it is there in Sri Lanka as well. Sri Lanka would be no different to the global arena in sports.
Nilu, what is the redress that sports people get with this policy coming into place?
There are numerous incidents that are coming up in the global field of sports, right? And they are talking about it only now. But these policies were there for a long time. So similarly in Sri Lanka, I don't think it's going to just happen, but more and more we want to create that environment so that they feel comfortable to come talk about it. And I would like to highlight that it's not only for women, it's also both genders. It covers the sexual harassment abuse policy, covers both genders.
Some brands gain top-of-mind recall. It is because they have proven they have always exceeded customer expectations and aspirations. It is this consistent delivery of brand promise that makes Sellico Life the most valuable life insurance brand in Sri Lanka and the strongest insurance brand. The rankings bestowed by Brand Finance also listed Sellico Life among the country's 10 strongest brands, giving it a brand rating of AA+. From 2 million to just 1,000. That's the number of pilgrims who would be attending the Hajj pilgrimage this year. For the first time in decades, international travelers have been barred from attending the Hajj, and only those between the ages of 20 and 50 have been chosen to participate. Well, have you got your $250,000 ready? Well, that's all you need to strap yourself into a customized reclining seat, blast into the upper atmosphere and spend a few minutes floating in microgravity. That's your trip to the edge of space on Virgin Galactic's Spaceship 2. A network of high-definition cameras also will take those required social media milestones. And really, you're never too old to fly. And I mean fly a plane. A 99-year-old woman from California broke 2 Guinness World Records when she piloted a plane and gave a flight lesson in the air. She is the world's oldest flight instructor and an active pilot. So the sky is the limit for everyone, really. On that happy note, we end our People's Bank News Capsule this week. Up next on Selinco Life, let's talk, plating it forward with a duo who dish out oodles of social good through their restaurant, Colombo Social. Sean Christie David and Peter Jones Best joins us from Sydney.
With Selinco Life Pension Saver, Sri Lanka's premier retirement plan, start planning for a retirement today. Selinco Life, a relationship for life.
We're back with Selinco Life, let's talk. On Enmore Road in Sydney is a Lankan bar and kitchen. But it's not just a regular Sri Lankan restaurant where, of course, the food is amazing and the service great. Colombo Social is founded by 2 young men who met while in school, Sean Christie David and Peter Jones Best. One has a Sri Lankan mother who cooked amazing Sri Lankan food, and the other was at the receiving end of this delightful cuisine. Fast forward, and the 2 went into business together. The result? Colombo Social. However, here's what's different. Colombo Social provides employment and support to asylum seekers and refugees, helping them transition into Australian society. But that's not all. As the entirety of Australia closed during COVID-19, Colombo Social took on a different dimension to serving food. They teamed up with Mission Australia, the Haymarket Foundation and other local charities and began distributing nutritious meals to the most vulnerable of their communities. When I spoke to the young men, the number of free meals served was over 19,000. Not long after that, to date, it's over 22,000 free meals. All this while the restaurant did not earn a single cent in revenue. Sean and Peter joined me from Sydney for a chat and enthusiastically shared what's special about Colombo Social.
There's many differentiators about Colombo Social. I suppose the biggest one is that home feel. It's home style cooking, but it's also the venue is accessible for everybody. It's relaxed, it's friendly. We want everyone to feel part of this community, part of our home. And we check in with people just the same way that you check in with someone if they're eating your food, just to see how they are constantly, make sure everyone's comfortable. And our social ethos and what sets us apart for many other restaurants is a kind of employment strategy and how we use our venue as a way to cultivate talent and to give people their first opportunity. There's a lot of Sri Lankan, but also people from all over the world that have sought asylum in Australia. And might not get the same opportunities that exist for other people. So to run a training program to take people, give them their first step and give them their first shot and help them out through their journey and their transition into Australian society and make that one step easier. And the same thing that's reciprocated because we get some really amazing talent and some great people to kind of be on board with us as well. So there's a lot of key differentiators and a blend of Australian cuisine, Australian cooking techniques and Sri Lankan cooking techniques all merged together. Australian staff that have really experienced, who have now taken Sri Lankan food and called it their own as well is a really key differentiator for us as well.
But then the whole thing, the ethos has changed, or the ethos was completely different to what a regular restaurant would be about.
We wanted to present a different way of charitable donations, if you'll call it that. So we wanted to move away and it came from our personal frustrations. You know, we didn't want to donate $2 into a bucket and then never see it again and never see any tangible results from it. We believe in something a bit more community-based and something real and tangible. So for us, that was having a restaurant where people could come and they're donating by way of purchasing food, which they really enjoy first of all. it's a good product, and they're able to see the results of their donation, which is literally just paying for their meal and experience in the face of the staff that are serving them, being some guys from asylum seeker or refugee background. They can see a tangible result of what their dollar's gone into and what it's produced, where we wanted to step away from what we believe is more of an older style model of charity and engage people on the ground and talk to those people and let them know what they're doing and how they're affecting change and enabling them to be part of that change in a local community. It's inner West Sydney for us. So these guys live around here and they work here and they've made friends here. They're employed here now. We couldn't do it without the customer base that we have that allows us to have a commercial business. But that's kind of where we looked at a successful commercial business with a social purpose.
And you can see there is strong females. Both Peter's mum, my mum, worked in early childhood education and shaping people and their future through education opportunity. And that's the key thing that's run through our venue as well, is how do we keep our mothers' legacies going, and how do we help people through that employment, that first shot, and education, so that they can continue on a successful career outside us, and learn through the venue or getting paid and employed as well.
Plate it forward, your initiative. You served something like 19,000 plus meals to people at high risk. You also were struggling with a business that was non-existent at that time, but you managed to get in resources like Kumar Pereira of MasterChef, for instance, your mum, your secret weapon, your mum's recipes in. You got LP's Quality Meats, Niroshan Richards into the system. How did you manage to pull all these resources while actually seeing your business, well, literally not make any money at that point in time?
There is no business without community. That's as simple as it is. If we don't have our community around forever, this business won't last forever. Nothing will. So Peter and I made an obligation to help those that needed us during the time that they needed us. If we as a social business couldn't step up when things were the worst, what's the point of being there for the best? We were managed to have a really good customer base, people that support us here through the restaurant, believe in what we do. They've seen it in its purest form, and wanted to help out where they could. So we had some volunteers, we had some paid staff, we had people that needed things, some people that the government had left behind, unfortunately, in Australia. So we tried to give employment opportunities to people, and during that time also feed people. So we've clocked over 20-something thousand meals now. That's something that we're going to keep going. The recession is going to continue, and things will get worse potentially. And during that time, if we can take up food insecurity, we can take up a couple of other things, and it is rewarding. Peter and I love what we do. We love helping people. We love knowing that a small donation from us and the general public, that a lot of people support us, a lot of businesses support us, that this can all stretch out, and that they know that their community cares for them as much as we do, and they've reciprocated that back to us, and that the community that we help out is big educators of Peter and I in terms of our life and how they impact us every day as well.
And of course, the importance of community, connecting with the community and listening to them, because they will be the anchor to any business. Great takeaways from these two young men who are following their dreams and yet keeping their eye firmly on the ground through their restaurant built on social consciousness, Colombo Social. Thank you, Sean Christie David and Peter Jones-Best, for joining us on Kaleidoscope this week from Sydney, Australia, to shed some light about building a business model that is truly rewarding on all fronts. That was Selingco Life. Let's talk.
With Selingco Life Pension Saver, Sri Lanka's premier retirement plan, start planning for a retirement today. Selingco Life, a relationship for life.
It's time now to give your green fingers a bit of exercise. Romaine Anthony tells you how easy it is to grow your own microgreens in Life in 60. What is small, multicolored, chock full of nutrients, has cancer-fighting ingredients and goes kapow in your mouth. They are microgreens, those 3-inch baby plants which, if grown in the hundreds, are actually more nutritious than their adults. In fact, studies show that microgreens have 4 to 40 times more nutrition than their mature plants. Romaine Anthony, a member of the Lanka Organic Gardening Circle who has been growing her own food for over 3 years, shows you the easy way to grow your own microgreens. Do try your hand at gardening or even just growing these microgreens. It surely is rewarding. Join the Lanka Organic Gardening Circle, an open and informal community in Sri Lanka who grow their own greens, share their experiences on gardening and connect with nature. Just log on to their Facebook page and your green fingers will surely shine. Thank you, Romaine Anthony, for sharing your green finger ideas with us on Life in 60. That's it for this week. If you want to give us any feedback, suggestions or stories you'd like to see on Kaleidoscope, please email us on kaleidoscopeweekly1@gmail.com. And if you like to watch Let's Talk, Life in 60 or our news capsule clips, you'll find it on our playlist on YouTube. Or simply subscribe to Kaleidoscope with Savithri Rodrigo and join us weekly. So with elections coming up next week, please do vote. It's a franchise that is to be valued because democracy is not just the right to vote, it's the right to live in dignity. Now, here's a Kaleidoscope takeaway. If we don't vote, we are ignoring history and giving away the future.